Hi, I'm Kristen Griego, and today I was fortunate enough to be joined by Adam Rainey. And Adam, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, so I'm Adam Rainey. I'm the new bass trombonist of the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. I just came from the Kansas City Symphony. So I'm here right now just getting my horns looked at. So
Do they have as good a barbecue in Detroit?
no.
But they have better cars.
Yes, way better cars. And hopefully everybody still has their hubcaps too. So
Right? Okay. Well, hubcaps, that kind of dates you even saying that comment. Because
Yes.
nowadays cars, I don't think even have hubcaps.
mine do, I just lost one.
Really? What kind of car do you drive?
2011 Camry.
2011 Camry. So
Very bougie.
I used to have a Camry.
Mm-hmm.
I sold it to my parents.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a great car. It wouldn't die, and as a matter of fact, they won't. It's actually the perfect, I think, trombone car.
It is.
Why?
Because no one's going to steal anything out of it.
No one's going to steal anything, and they don't break down. I mean,
they also don't break down.
the parts are cheap. The tires, I mean, they're a very cost-effective car, but they're very comfortable.
Yes, very.
So I remember my parents were always like, a Toyota, and then I sold it to them, and they were like, oh.
Yeah, they catch that bug, right?
Now they're on their third or fourth one.
Mm-hmm. That's usually how it works.
Yeah. So, when did you buy your Toyota?
Oh, I bought that right when I won the Kansas City Symphony job in 2014. It's a green one. And that was my first time buying a car. And I realized that you kind of sell your soul to the devil when you're doing those car payments. So I was as green as my vehicle, but I've had it, 8 years. And I still love it and I take care of it. So.
Yeah. Now, how many trombones can you fit into it?
6.
Now, the reason I'm asking this question is, if anybody's ever watched a master class that I've given, I always stress the importance of a side hustle. Or financial advisors say diversification. And it's smart to be diversified. Can you talk a little bit about your side hustle?
So I started the side hustle, I think in 2018. I've always been interested in like vintage trombones. And I was like, well, you know what? What if I start like a side business where I'm looking for these old vintage horns? Like the first one I sold was an old 88H L card. I think it was in 1969. And then it just kind of spiraled and I just find stuff. And a lot of my clientele, most of them are high schoolers looking for a proper professional instrument, their first professional instrument. So I love just like finding things and getting them repaired. And I have a fantastic repairman in Kansas City, Heritage Music Repair. If you're looking for a great repairman in a repair company, contact them. They do fantastic work. But yeah, and then it just kind of diversified into bass trombones, jazz trombones, but mostly I was just doing large bore tenors for high schoolers that needed them or college players. And I still sell to a lot of early college players too. So,
And I think in today's market where there's so many offshore instruments, I think people a lot of times are better served buying a great used instrument that was a quality made instrument the first time, rather than buying something that's, coming in with soft chrome on the slide tubes, where that no matter what you do, no matter how straight or parallel, the slide's always going to slightly drag because the chrome is soft.
And I always deal with parents. They're always a little scared about buying an instrument online, as anybody should. It's safe. It's the lack of safety because they don't know me and I don't know them. But I always tell them, like, if you buy an American-made professional trombone product, like a Kahn or a Getson or an Edwards, like, it will retain its value over a longer period of time. Because usually the offshore stuff, you buy it at a certain price and it immediately just falls down really quickly.
Right.
So, yeah, it's definitely a lack of investment on that one.
Right. And so I think your side hustle, you've been doing that for how long now?
I think I'm getting on to the fourth or like late third year.
So whenever I started Griego Mouthpieces, it was kind of a passion project. I start projects, I don't ever do anything for money. I'm lucky enough that I get a paycheck, obviously, but we start trombone because we love it.
Yes.
And I got into trombone mouthpieces because I was curious how I could play bolero. It was a totally selfish endeavor. I just went and for you working with all these other instruments, how did that influence your sound concept?
Well, I think I've always had a sort of, I wouldn't say special. I think it's a very individual sort of bass trombone sound. It's very compact. I think somebody described me as a mixture of George Roberts. I forgot who it was, but it was like a mixture of George Roberts and like Pete Norton in Cincinnati. Just like kind of that studio sound, but really can fit in an orchestra. And obviously I've been inspired by Jim Markey, Doug Yo, but when it comes down to the tenor playing, I really do I try to apply the same thing, but I really think of like Toby Oft, Norman Bolter, and like in Ken Tompkins, he sounds great. And I'm starting to listen to him a lot. He's principal in Detroit. And so now that's kind of defining like, okay, what do I do? Because the only time I really play tenor is when I'm teaching lessons to fairly young children. So I think it's important to have a tenor in front of them so they can hear it instead of me just playing a bass trombone. But as for playing, it's really made me decide that bass trombone should sound like a trombone, but just you're playing low notes. You don't have to be the tuba. You don't have to be, quote unquote, the blend that gets down to the tuba. You can blend with the tuba fine as long as you're just in tune and you pay attention to them. And they have to pay attention to you too. So
yeah, one of my things, people will ask me, well, how does this instrument blend? I'm like, blending's a concept, and you have to have this idea. And if somebody's playing a little warmer or darker than you, you can slow your air down and thicken. And that's just being smart. And that's evolving your process so that you're moldable as a musician, so you move with what's around you.
Yes.
Which I think is very important. So I also wanted to talk to you about your mom. I'm sorry.
Hopefully good things.
Yeah, no. So I actually have relationship with your mom that's a little different.
Yes.
And I would you explain to people what I'm talking about here?
So, when Christan developed the B502, the one that first came out, I think, what year was that? Was that 2013?
Yeah, it's been a long time now.
Yeah. So actually the audition for Kansas City was February 2014. And it was coming up. And my teacher at the time, Jim Markey, was like, Adam, you gotta get this horn. Because like the current setup I had, I think I just outgrew it. It really worked for me for a while. But then it was just like, I was getting semis, but I wasn't getting finals in auditions. So
now I'm going to interrupt. Now I'm getting calls from Jim Markey, who's like, I've got a student who's on the cusp. Yeah. We've got to get him this trombone. And it was on order. And so I'm getting pressure there.
Yes.
And so December comes and Midwest happens in Chicago. And I'm standing at the booth and...
And then my mother comes up and...
I'll
finish it.
I'm approached, and I've actually have talked to her before Midwest, and she's lobbying now because Jim's called. Mother's calling me, lobbying to get the instrument. Can we please do? And we're working through production to get things coming through, but they're just not happening fast enough. And I'm doing the best I can. I'm standing at Midwest, and Mom shows up and says, Christan, we have to get Adam this horn. You have to. What if I give you $500 cash? Can we get him this trombone? And I was like, how much? We'll get him a trombone. We're gonna. But fast forward 2 months.
Yeah.
And
then I won the job on my old equipment, but I did end up getting the horn before I started Kansas City.
Yeah. But it was too soon.
It was
before the audition.
Way too soon.
And so it was just I never forgot this story because I've had some relationship with parents, but this was the first time that I actually got the
bribed.
yes. I didn't take it. We got you the instrument, and you've been performing on that instrument. So you won the job. Mm-hmm. Did you start the job on the instrument you won?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Which
why?
It just played way better than my old B454. That one was it was a mixture of used parts, but and the bell section I worked with you to get. Mm-hmm. But at that point, it was just the sound concept had to change. It was a little too, I wouldn't say out of control, but back then, I tended to be quite the aggressive player, and I needed something to back me off. And I think Thayer's were a little just too free for me. So
and so you start the job and. when you get the job, I'm always so careful with what I say, and I'm always congratulatory. We have had a ton of people win jobs on Getson and Edwards recently, and I'm so thankful that these musicians now have a paycheck. And I'm always quiet. I don't want to say that it's us, and one of the reasons is I want the colleagues around to understand that they're a colleague and a musician first, and they're not an endorser
Yes.
first. I don't know why that matters to me, but it does. And I think it's important for a musician to grow with their position, get tenure, because then you have security, and then you can do what you need to do, and musically after the paycheck's handled.
Yes.
And even outside of the orchestra, if it will. So congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
A lot of people want to know this. What do you do to get ready for auditions?
So for the audition, I get a timeline. Is it 2 months? Is it a month and a half?
Okay.
I've done some auditions where I'm hitting it hard 2 months before, and then I just realize it's a little too far away and I kind of lose it. But for the Detroit audition, I really wanted it. So I definitely played for my old teacher, Jim Markey, a couple of times.
Live or Zoom?
Live.
Okay.
The second one was Zoom because COVID kind of messed that up. But that ended up being great. And I also played for Amanda Stewart. She was only 4 hours away from me, and that was great too. What a lovely human being. And
absolutely.
she's great. But a lot of it was recorded practicing. You would have no idea how many hours I've just recorded on my M audio. Just every day, like I play an excerpt, record it, listen to it. All right, is that good enough? And then I just repeat the process a lot. And then, because I was in a different position, because I already had a job at that point. And Roger Oyster, principal of Kansas City, I remember talking to him a fair amount about it. And he says, probably the hardest thing to do is to win an audition while having a job at the same time.
Why is that?
Because you're spending your face so much on playing John Williams. Like that happened before one of the Cleveland Orchestra auditions. I had a whole week of John Williams, and guess what? My face was completely spent. So you have to get it really timed out, and also just figure out how much playing do I have to do to make this sound good. And then we go to basics too, and I would do about 30 to 45 minutes of basics a day. Koprosh, Richard Fote edition for bass trombone players. Get it. It's a great book. High Range, Bordoni Book 3, that was a COVID project.
Yeah.
So it was fun, still painful, utterly painful, but it's fun. But yeah, it's just, and lots of just drone work, getting the intonation, listening, musical ideas. Can I convey this to the committee properly? And I could definitely go in depth a little bit more, but that's just kind of the gist of it.
With your recording device, what headphones would you use?
I just use the basic one. I'm not too fancy with my recording, so it was just the M audio, whatever comes with the bass.
Okay.
Those little microphones that do that.
Yep.
But I got it to a certain setting where I can really hear it, and I got picky. You got to get picky because there's so many people in an audition. There were so many great bass trombonists in the Detroit Symphony audition, and it's a game of inches at that point because everyone's a great player.
Yeah.
So how are you going to show yourself off?
Yeah, and it's the very small details that will help you. And I'm an audiophile. I'm a freak about sound, and I listen so much. I listen here. I listen at home. I listen to everyone.
Yeah.
If I get a chance, I absorb as much as I can because I want to know the trend of sounds, and I want to know what's working, what's not working, because then I can adjust our concepts here.
Yes.
Because I've been here since the 90s when everything was big and bombastic. That didn't change. It's come back to a more contained, and now resonance is coming back in style with good core, but with some resonance and a roundness and depth of sound. And I'm focused on that right now because I realized that people talk about your sound as I've heard Brian say a hug.
Yes.
And it envelops you. Well, for me, it's stereophonic where it comes in. And I'm going to talk more about that, but we're always adjusting our sound. And I think what you're talking about is is adjusting your sound from the front to the body to the resonance of the note.
Yes.
And every aspect of your sound counts, which, I mean, when you get to that level, it's easier to have success.
Yes.
Because you know what you're doing and how it's going to happen. So congratulations. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about while we're here?
Well, I just have to say, if you want a fantastic bass trombone, I know you didn't want like the this sort of thing, but it's the B502 with the AR valves, really fantastic, and it's a great American company, and you know what you're getting out of the box. And also, like, they're just like, I just came here because I had an off week and I just got my stuff cleaned up, and it just both of my 502s play amazing. Edwards does great work, and yeah.
We're thankful for the relationships we have with our customers that choose to work with us, and thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see where your future goes, and
Thank you.
if anybody has any questions, leave them in the comments below. We'll get to them and we'll try and get them answered. And if there's any questions you want to ask pros as they're coming through, I'm going to try and do more of these videos. So
Yeah.
it's fun to do, and it's great to see you and great to work with you.
Oh, you too. Thank you.